Good, yeah, when you do it, try not to let the belly dip. I know that's a natural reaction. We're like, oh, we can do it if we just release this part, yeah. Tuck the toes. Nice. Good. All right, we don't want to wear ourselves out with that one. I know it's a lot of fun. Everybody's favorite part. All right, how do you guys feel about the plank and the chaturanga so far? Good? All right, cool, awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little dolphin pose because we are gonna work on some forearm stands today. So we just wanna start to open up the shoulders a little bit and get our bodies prepared in a scapula way, but also just in a little bit of a flexibility way as well. So for our dolphin pose, we're going to bring the elbows down to the floor, grab opposite upper arms. Your elbows are going to stay in the same orientation, and then your hands are going to flip forward, and your palms are going to come down to the earth. Now you can bring it where the hands are close, or you can bring it where the hands stay in line with the elbows. I tend to have a hard time with this orientation because my elbows want to slide out. So if you do have your elbows wanting to slide out, you can bring your hands in towards the center, kind of making a little bit of a triangle shape instead. So totally up to you how you want to do that. We'll go ahead and tuck the toes and lift the sit bones. So we're coming into our dolphin shape. Our weight's not completely loaded over our shoulders yet. We'll walk our toes a little further forward just to create a little bit more of that action. And then from there we have some options about how our shoulders happen. So we can sink and let our head drop to the floor, or we can actively push through the forearms and lift through the scapula to help create some space between our head and the earth and actually activate through the arms and the shoulders. So just a few times, let the head sink, and then press back up. Good. So you're letting the shoulders spread wide, and then you're activating them and lifting them up. And it's kind of feeling like the opposite direction, like you're pulling them down, but if you were the other way around, you'd be lifting them up. Good. All right, once you've done a few of those, you can come back down. Relax the arms out, maybe roll the shoulders a few times. All right. Cool. So we have two more things we're going to do as far as exercises go to help. One of them is a mobility exercise, and one of them is just to help create a little bit of flexibility. So we're going to start with a flexibility exercise. So hopefully we'll find a little bit more mobility when we get to that exercise. So we're just going to lay on our back, and we're going to check in with a little happy baby. So we'll take our hands down to the soles of our feet. Let the soles of the feet shine to the sky, but go ahead and flex the feet back, so as if you're driving the heel towards the ceiling. And then you'll draw the knees wide. Give yourself a little push with the arms, and then try to keep your sacrum on the ground. So this one's just to help kind of stretch out those legs a little bit and get prepared for a little bit of compression that happens in our inversion and our balance as well. All right, so go ahead and release your hands. And here's the mobility part of this, is we're not going to use our hands, we're going to use our hip flexors to draw the knees down and wide. So maybe extend the legs to the sky for a moment, and then you'll squeeze the knees back down to the earth and feel that compression. And even the belly's going to activate here to help compress the knees towards the earth. Good. Try to get them as close to the underarms as you can. Big squeeze. Good. Go ahead and release, and let your feet come to the ground. Do you guys feel what I'm talking about by drawing the knees towards the underarms with just the activation of the belly and the hip flexors? Mm-hmm. Okay. If that doesn't make sense, I'm happy to talk more about it. We'll go ahead and do that one more time, lifting the legs to the sky. And then go ahead and take the knees wide towards the underarms and squeeze into the body as tightly as you can. Good. Go ahead and release. Bring the feet down to the earth, and then sway the knees from side to side a few times. All right, so we'll coming back to our tabletop. And then we're gonna work on a exercise that actually helps us work the hip flexor and create the mobility that we were just practicing in our previous posture. Back to tabletop. You can also do this in a plank pose, but it's not absolutely necessary for what we're gonna do today, and I don't want to completely wear you guys out because I know we're doing a lot. So from your plank pose, you're going to press down through your left knee and bring your right knee off the floor. And oftentimes what happens as soon as we do this is we shift weight over to the left side of the body, right? So we're gonna not do that. We're gonna keep ourselves stacked over the center of our body, which creates a little bit of belly activation to make that happen, a little bit of glutes to squeeze into center line. And then we're gonna bring our knee forward towards our wrist, the right knee, lift it up as high as we can, and then lower it back down. Nice and slow. As you lift, breathe out. As you open, breathe in. So 5 on each side. Good. If you start to feel yourself load weight over into that left side, try to draw yourself back to center before doing the next one. Good. And we'll come back to center, and we'll take it to the opposite side. So lifting that knee off. Bring the knee as far forward as you can towards your arm, and then lift it as high as you can up the length of the arm, and then lower it back down. Good. Good job, guys. All right, once you get through your 5, maybe you sit back into a child's pose for a few rounds of breath. You're ready, you can come back up. How are you guys feeling about the knee slides? Good. Good? Okay. Cool. So you feel the activation in the hip flexor as it lifts, a little bit of activation in the belly, the glutes that have to squeeze to keep you all in center line from shifting from side to side, or usually to the side that we've got our knee down on. And like I said, those can happen in plank as well, so if you want to try that out, you're welcome to. We're not going to do it today just to not wear you guys out. I know we're probably already starting to get a little tired from all the exercises we've done. So that's all we're going to do for warm-ups and exercises. Does everybody have any questions about, does anybody have any questions about any of the things we've already done? Cool, so the exercises make sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool, perfect. All right, so we're going to start with crow as our very first arm balance, and we're going to kind of flip-flop back and forth between arm balances and inversions, just so we can give our arms and body a little bit of rest, since there are some opposing things that happen in those, and since we don't want to be on our hands the whole time. So you have 2 props. We're going to go ahead and take our belt, or what it's called, strap, there we go. Take our strap and thread it through. So you'll bring it through both first and then back through just the outer one, if that makes sense. Guess I could have set these guys up for you to begin with. All right. And then we're going to want to bring the belt small enough so that when we place our arms in it, it is just shoulder width distance apart, so mine's not quite narrow enough. You're just going to put it straight above your elbows, just a little. Should be about shoulder width distance apart. hypermobile through your elbows. There you go. You just, because your elbows like come forward through your, yeah. Anyway, they're perfect. Yes. They're beautiful the way they are, but yes, you're fine. Sometimes it's hard to tell if your alignment, if your elbows are hypermobile because your whole joint kind of comes out this way, so it'll look like your arm is like a little further than where it's at. Yeah, so I was like, oh, you're, okay, it works, it's still good, it's all good, your body works just fine, it's just a little different. Okay, so everybody's got it to the point where your shoulder width is important. I think mine's still a little too narrow. Okay, this is going to be an optional piece, but I encourage you to try it at least once just because it helps to encourage you to keep your elbows in, because more frequently than not, a lot of times people struggle, that one's too narrow, a lot of times people struggle with keeping the elbows from splaying out. And I'm not saying that's a problem you have because I don't know, but if you do, this is a very helpful way to make sure that the elbows don't come out, because it's literally impossible for them to go out to the sides of your space if your strap is holding onto it. So we're going to use this as an option, and we will try it at least once, but if you don't want to use it and you don't feel like you have a problem with the elbows, then that's totally okay as well. Our second one is going to be our block. You can use it in front of you if that makes you more comfortable as a little crash, and we've also got bolsters. If you feel like you need a bolster, that's totally okay as well. The option number 2 is going to be to place it behind you, and your feet are actually going to go on it to help you lift a little bit and get your hips a little bit higher. So 2 options, it can go in front of you for your head, or it can go behind you for your feet. So I will demo with the strap first, and then I'll show you guys the block, and you can of course put both of them together if you like. So just as we've been practicing since we started, we're going to place the hands firmly down onto the ground, spread the fingers out nice and wide. Get that firm pressure through all of the knuckles so we are not compressing into the wrist. Then we're going to roll the triceps back. And my strap wants to go along with it. And then we're going to lift the chest away from the earth, so we're creating that space between our scapula. Activate the belly, squeeze the glutes. We're going to step up. Bend the elbows to the back of our space. The knees are going to go as high on the backs of the arms as they can. They might just touch the elbows, that's totally okay. From there, sorry, it's creating a little pinch. From there, we're going to start to shift the weight just slightly forward. So slightly forward, maybe we pick up one set of toes and then the other. The same actions that we were doing in our plank is what we're doing here. So we're going to start from the ground with our hands all the way up through the length of our body. The option to use the block can help bring the floor higher, so you can use it to step on. If you need 2 blocks, you're welcome to do that. Again, hands down. We're going to wrap the arms back, activate through the fingers, lift through the chest, create space in the scapula, activate the belly, activate the pelvic floor, squeeze the glutes, shift the weight forward, forward, forward until the toes get light. And if the toes get light and you're comfortable, you can start to lift the heels towards the glutes. And then of course you could use this on the front. I know you said that you've used that before, so that's always an option as well. I'm not going to encourage that, but it doesn't mean you can't do it.
It's good for face plank.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, so at least try the strap once. We'll go ahead and plant the hands down. Make sure that the fingers are spread out nice and wide. Good, get up activation through the knuckles. Awesome, wrap the triceps back. Squeeze the arms together, so we're activating the pectoral muscles. Lift through the upper back, so there's space between the shoulder blades. Good, just like we're doing that cat shape. So even more lift here, big lift, good. Activate the belly, squeeze the glutes. Go ahead and step the feet up. Awesome. Elbows are going to bend to the back of your space because there's not many options here with the strap on the arms. And you're going to place those knees as high as you can comfortably get them. The elbows will continue to bend as you bring and shift the weight forward slightly. It's okay if the toes don't make it off the mat, just as long as they start to feel lighter. Good. once you've tried the strap once, if you're good with it, you can go ahead and set it aside, and then we'll try again without our strap. So, but if it's helping you out, feel free to keep it going. All right, so we'll try one more time, and then we'll talk about what we're feeling and how I can help you. So really lift through this area. Good, elbows to the back of your space. Doing good. Doing great. Good. You feel the toes getting lighter?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Nice, yeah, if the wrists are feeling it, give them a little movement, roll them around. It's not something we do all the time. If you're not regularly doing hand balancing every day, the wrists are gonna get tired. So just take the breaks that you need and stretch them out as you need to, and then like I said, we're gonna flip back and forth. So how's everybody feel about the curl? Does it feel different than when you've previously tried?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So belly activation, I know it's a lot to think about. We're thinking about the whole length of the arm, we're thinking about chest, we're thinking about scapula, we're thinking about our belly, our pelvic floor, glutes, everything squeezing into center line. If it doesn't feel different, you can totally be honest and say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And that's okay too. So.
No, it's interesting with the strap because I feel like I always went wider a little bit,
Mhm.
and now I'm like, I feel like I'm really narrow.
Yes, yeah, you might feel a little bit compressed. And well, yeah, because you know you can't really,
I was probably doing
you
it wrong.
cannot take the
Yeah.
elbows any wider. It
Yeah.
will not let you do that. So it's really nice to practice with the strap to get that feeling of where the elbows should be, and it kind of holds everything in really nice and tight. So always an option there. Cool. Did anybody have any questions about crow? Does anybody want to try it again? Does anybody have anything going, feeling wrong or not feeling like lights or, okay, good.
I mean, like, is it just like my wrist? That's what always bugs me in this is my wrist. Like,
Yeah,
Is it
so-
just a matter of warming them up every time? kind of
It's
thing?
definitely a matter of warming them up, and wrist, just like the rest of our body, needs strengthening too. So one of the exercises that we didn't do, because I just didn't want to wear you guys out, is called flashlights. It's where you extend your arms fully in front of you, and then you're going to squeeze and open your hands as fast as you can. So that can help strengthen the muscles around your hands and your wrists.
Okay.
Another thing you can do is, they train this in acrobatics, is to place your whole hand up to the top of your wrist in rice, and then move your fist around.
Resistance? Oh.
Yeah, so you get a resistance basically to help strengthen the wrist.
Huh.
So yeah, you're just like the rest of your body. If you aren't spending time strengthening the wrists, they're going to get tired a lot faster. You have to build up that endurance and strength around the wrist.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest complaints that people traditionally get with doing the hand balancing stuff. So yeah, wrist health is important, and in our yoga practice, we don't frequently get the wrist exercises that we need. We're doing planks, and those are great, but they don't really do all the things that we need to help exercise. The other thing that you can do, one other exercise, is coming onto the hands and knees. You can do this in plank as well, but it's extremely challenging, so it's a work towards, and just roll the heel of the hand up and roll it back down. And then when you get more comfortable with it, you might take the knees back and load a little more weight into the hands, and then roll up and down.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're telling me already.
Okay, so yeah, so that's a good exercise as well, particularly if you don't want to, waste a whole vat of rice by stuffing your hand in it. So, but they're good ways to help build that strength.
Okay.
Cool, good question. Anybody else? Feeling okay about the crow? Okay, and we can always come back and play with them later as well. So now we're going to talk a little bit about full and half shoulder stance. One of the things we're going to do as a little bit of a precursor to both of those is to come onto our back, and I'll just demo it first and then you guys can try it out. We're going to lift our feet up to the sky. We're going to put our hands down on the floor with the palms facing down, and then you're just going to create a little lift. So we're going to try to bring the feet towards our face a little bit, lift our sacrum off the floor, and then lower it back down. You want to try to do it with as much control as possible. So usually it's the way back down that's a little bit harder to maintain that control in. Good. So you don't have to do a whole bunch of them just to kind of get the feel of the action. So in our yoga practice, you guys can go ahead and come back up whenever you're ready. Take your time. In our yoga practice, there's usually 2 ways we can get into a half shoulder stand. We can roll up from the ground, similar to what we were just doing. We're taking our hands by side body, doing that lift, and then placing the hands underneath the sacrum, and then drawing the elbows together. So half shoulder stand is just where the hips are not stacked over top of your shoulders, but over top of your elbows. And then the second option is you can also come in from your bridge pose. So you can tuck the elbows under, place the hands underneath the glutes to begin with, and then draw up. Woo! One at a time, sorry. So that one tends to be a little bit more challenging on the belly. And you can come out the same way you came in. So you can do the roll up or the transition from your bridge. I suggest trying the roll up first just because it's easier, and then if you're comfortable with bridge pose and your neck and back is okay, then you can try the other one. All right, so we'll come to lay on our back. Drop the arms by side body, palms facing down for now. Once we start to create that transition, the palms are going to turn up towards the glutes. So just make sure that the elbow mobility can make that happen. So just kind of lift the forearms up and then turn the palms to the sky. Good, so that action happens. Feel good about that. We'll walk the feet in and then lift the feet up to the sky. And then the same action we were doing earlier where we're creating that lift of the sacrum off the floor, we're just going to make it a little bit bigger this time. So lift and then place the hands on the sacrum, walk the elbows in close, and then work towards stacking the feet over top of the hips as much as you're comfortable with. They might come a little more overhead. Good. All right, the release down, we release the hands back to the floor and slowly lower the back down. All right, seems like everybody's pretty comfortable in that one. Whew. I'm ready for the moisture to come back.
Takes its toll. That explains why I've been so thirsty lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally a person who appreciates the humidity in the state of Florida. Probably one of the few, but
I'm with you.
I think I have amphibious lungs. They're like, I need moisture. Alright, so everybody seems like they're really comfortable with the half shoulder stand. Okay. Has everybody done full shoulder stand before? Cool. Okay, so everybody's pretty comfortable with that as well. So the only difference for our full shoulder stand is that we're going to create a little more oomph to get up there. So the action is going to be the same. The lift, hands to the sacrum, and I actually find it easier. Walk the elbows in as close as you can get them. And then in this one, the hips are just stacking more over top of the shoulders. And it's really going to be about how comfortable your cervical spine is with this. And this is kind of why we did that stretch earlier. One of the big things that can happen there is people like to move their heads from side to side for some reason. I guess we're just kind of paying attention to what other people are doing in class. So you always want to keep your gaze to the sky, and also that the chest is moving its way to the chin and not the other way around. So we don't want to tuck our chin into our chest or compress our chin into our chest. We want to keep our neck neutral and bring our chest towards our chin. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you guys want to try on the full shoulder stand, go ahead and come into that. So a little more oomph in our lift. Good, good. Walk those elbows as close together as you can get them. Awesome. Little squeeze of the legs, point of the toes. That can help us really activate everything. Good. And then notice that sensation of the chest moving towards the chin and not the opposite way around. Awesome. When you're ready to come out, nice and slow. Try to roll down one vertebra at a time. Nice control. Good job, guys. just take a few moments to kind of let that, I know we're like up and down, up and down. Cool, okay, so it seems like everybody's pretty good with the shoulder stand and half shoulder stand. Does anybody have any questions about any of those?
I really like the chest to
Yeah.
neck and chin instead of chin to chest. I feel like that helps get that straighter alignment.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, it does help with the alignment, but it also, more importantly, protects your cervical spine from unnecessary, because when you start drawing this, it creates space and compression at the same time. There's nothing wrong with stretching like that because there's no pressure on the back of your neck, but when you're doing that and you're pushing the weight of your body on the back of your neck, it doesn't bode well for cervical spine. Kind of gets pissed off, so yeah. All right, so we're gonna go switch back to our hand balancing and move into side crow. This one can be done two ways that I normally see. There's the more traditional way where the hip is gonna float, and then there's, I don't like to call it the cheater way, I just like to call it the like, sometimes you just need that posture to figure it out for the next piece way. So sometimes people put their hip on the opposite elbow, which is perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's a great way to learn the side crow in transition. It does require a lot more spinal flexibility. So I'll show both of them, and then you can kind of decide based on your comfort level and your spinal flexibility which one you want to try. You can try both if you want to try both. So what I frequently see, and I'll try to do it from this side, is hands will come to the side of the space. The same thing that we've been building the whole time applies here too. So we're going to ground through the fingers, we're going to tuck the triceps back, we're going to activate through the chest and lift up, we're going to squeeze the arms together, scapulas create space between them. I'm wondering if I can even do this anymore with the hip on. We lower both the knee and the hip, so knee goes on one elbow, hip goes on the other, and then the toes start to lift off. So notice how that is a lot of spinal twist. So if your spine is not super twisty, which I don't even think I can do it on the other side, it's probably not going to feel super awesome. That's like a post-traditional learning how to do side crow, don't quite have the mechanics, and that's totally okay. That's how I learned it. So the next one is going to be the traditional way, and we actually don't bring our hands fully to the side, we turn them to the side here. So same thing, same arm activation, elbows to the back of our space. We're going to start to shift weight slightly forward, and not only forward, but in a diagonal direction. So from there, the toes start to lift off, and our hip is floating instead of on top of our elbow. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. My breath's trying to talk and do it at the same time. All right, so the foundations are exactly the same, all the way up through the arms, the belly, the pelvic activation. We are in a twisted variation. That's kind of why we did the spinal twist earlier in the chair. If you feel like you need to warm up your spine a little bit more, I highly encourage you to do a little bit more spinal twisting, and then we can try that one on and see how we feel about it. I didn't talk much about the legs, but we draw everything towards our center line. So legs squeeze together, tighten together. We try to draw the knees as tightly to the chest as we can, so that's why we kind of worked the hip flexors earlier. So the whole body's activated.
Is this one we might want to do with the strap to keep it up?
Yeah, you can absolutely do this one with a strap as well. Yes, yeah, that's absolutely welcome. Yours is a fear thing, isn't it? I know it, because I can see you have the strength to do it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, you do. Yeah, I can see it.
I was thinking I wasn't going anywhere with my strength.
No, you've got the strength to do it. I think you're afraid to move.
I'm
to
totally
fall
scared I
forward.
want to fall forward.
Yeah. Yeah, if
I'm
your
gonna
wrists,
snap
yeah,
forward,
if your
like,
wrists are
yeah.
feeling tired, you know,
Yeah.
you can give them a break, you don't have to keep on trying, so, but at least you know, you can write down the mechanics of getting it done.
Do we wanna try and put our knees like into our armpits like we do in the other crow too, or is that not?
You can, you wanna get them as close as you can, so yeah, you do wanna create that squeeze inward. Actually a posture I'm gonna show you guys right after this, which is related. It'll actually help if your knee is squeezed, the bottom knee is squeezed in. And you
Okay.
kinda wanna make sure that the top knee is oriented in the same way. So you're doing the version where you're gonna float the hip?
Uh-huh.
Okay, perfect. Squeeze the legs together, good, awesome. So now I just want you to think about lifting up there, good. That's it. Awesome.
Well done,
That was
girlfriend.
awesome.
How's the wrist feeling?
Yeah, good. I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I don't want you to overdo it,
Yeah,
'cause you
I'm
can
good.
always come back to it, but if you
Yeah.
hurt them, then it's like you know,
Yeah, then you're
out
really
for a little
screwed,
while,
yeah.
Which leg did you lift up first, inside one?
Yeah, I think
you've got it, good.
Oh.
That's okay, good,
That was awesome.
good, you floated it, yeah.
Any recommendation on like posture?
It's just gonna, you're
Take
just gonna
time.
keep on practicing, yeah,
Okay.
you've got the foundation, it's just getting the confidence as you keep on doing it,
Okay.
yeah.
Getting used to the awkwardness.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of weird, you're twisted, you're
Yeah.
compressed, yeah. Think about moving a little bit more at an angle. I think you're trying to transition all the way forward, and you also want to transition it a little bit to the side. So if we go here, right?
You did say diagonal.
Yeah,
family.
so not just forward, a little bit to, or actually a lot to the diagonal.
Okay, I see, yeah, very different.
So diagonal as in like, if I'm doing it this way,
Mm-hmm.
I go out this way or?
You're going away from where your knees are going, so
Okay,
if my
so I
knees
go
are on my
this-
left elbow, I'm moving towards my right arm.
Okay.
Yeah, diagonally. Yeah, yeah, the strengthening of the wrist, it's almost like we need to have like a precursor to the class of like, do all these
Yeah.
exercises.
I like that one, the little lift. Like I'm gonna be doing like wrist push-ups.
Yeah. How are we feeling? Doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna push myself too hard. though.
Yeah, no, don't do that. We don't wanna go beyond what we can always take notes and come back to it later. And like I said, it's very based on spinal flexibility. So if your spine's not quite warmed up, or maybe it's just one of those days where it's like, I don't really know about the spinal twisting thing, then it might just not be a good posture practice for that day.
Would you say like as you like as we're learning all of these, like is it good to like master one and then work on to the other, or like kind of practice each one as much as you can? Or?
I mean, the foundations of both this and your crow are
Yeah.
pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
This one does, like I said, it
Just
just
a little more side.
a little more spinal flexibility, a little more compression.
Yeah.
But the foundations are all the same, all the muscle activation is exactly the same. So if you're working on both at the same time, that's fine. But I would encourage you, if you're working on side crow, and you know that spinal flexibility is a thing for you, work on your spinal flexibility as well, obviously, because that's what's gonna help you get to that point where you can actually twist the body and get into the shape. So spinal flexibility, and you guys know spinal twist, your twisted chair, which is what, we did that at the beginning of practice because that's actually a transitionary pose for getting into your side crow, which you could actually use in a class. So when you're in your Utkatasana twist. You just place the hands down and come into your float, and then just come straight back into your twist. So we'll give a few more minutes to absorb that one.
So how far would you say to put your hands down in front of your feet whenever you're down?
The hands are actually going to the side, so mine are angled. My pinky toe is probably in line with the outer edge of my hand, and it's probably about a hand's distance away. So it doesn't have to be very far.
Okay.
Good. Good, good, good. Cool. Nice. All right. I'm going to show you guys the extended variation of this, but we can just write it down and then, and then maybe bring it into practice later. So, actually, I'm going to decide if I should turn to the side for that one now. Okay. So, you come into your side crow, and then we're going to extend the legs. So it doesn't take much more strength than your side crow already does. It's a finding the balance point. When you start to extend your legs, you have to counter that with something, so the chest might have to move forward a little bit more. It is much more helpful though if you've already got a nice stable side crow before you start moving your legs around and messing with the balance point. So that one's just a balancing point thing. So for that, the bottom leg is extending out to the side, and the top leg is extending out to the back. All right, hold up. There we go.
So bottom's kind of side and down and top's kind of up and back.
Yes, yeah.
That's cool.
It's wearing me out though. I'm like, oh, we've got more stuff to teach. I need to chill out. Okay. So let's see. We've done crow. We've done some shoulder stands. We've done side crow. Now we're going to work on our traditional headstand. If anybody has neck problems, I'm going to encourage you to probably skip this one. And headstand is not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be in your practice to make your practice a good practice. It's not imperative, but I am going to go over it so we have the basics and foundations for doing a headstand. So if that is something you want to bring into your practice, then you have that capability.
We're allowed to take a break too.
I know it. Well, maybe we need a, I don't know about you guys, but it's really warm in here.
Yeah.
My feet stay cold.
Yeah, I know, right? My feet
Yeah.
are hot except for my feet.
It makes me think my body is colder.
Yeah.
All right. So, there are two types of headstands that we practice in yoga. One is our tripod headstand, which is even more compression on the neck, so I'm not actually going to teach that today, but you may see people practice it. And tripod headstand is kind of what it sounds like, is where we create a tripod with our hands and our head. So you'll see that one practiced sometimes. The safer but frequently more challenging version is our traditional headstand, and that's where you're going to see the arms overhead and the head kind of in between the arms. So, just in case I go over, make sure I don't have things that are going to hurt me. Same thing that we set up for earlier for our dolphin pose. We're going to grab opposite elbows and place our hands in front of us. Instead of the palms facing down, which you can do if that's something you want to do, I place the palms together. One thing I don't like doing is clasping the hands like this. You're welcome to do it. There's nothing necessarily bad against it as far as form goes, but if you go over, you're going to crush your fingers together, and I know because I've done it before, it can be extremely painful. So I do not do this clasping motion just because of that. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong, and if you don't have a problem with going over, then that's perfectly fine, but if you do, it can run the risk of squashing your fingers. So either a hand grip like that, or just the palms together is fine. So, opposite arms, palms together. We're going to place the forward part of the head in between the arms and try to align the arms to the edges of the head until we create a little bit of space between the hands and the back of the head. Oftentimes, people try to balance right on the top of their head, and your head actually has a symphysis there, where the bones of the skull come together, and compression there is not really good for your brain and blood flow and all that other good stuff. So we're actually going to balance the headstands right in this portion here. So it's kind of like right behind your hairline. So you'll notice if you're kind of pressing, feel your forehead, you'll feel that kind of really bony hard part. The skull is very thick there. And then if you keep on moving back, you'll feel that it's a little bit softer and thinner, right? Okay, so we feel the thick part. That's the part you really want to be balancing on. Does everybody feel that? Cool. Okay. So it's not quite straight on the top of your head. So we find that spot, we place that down, and then we're going to lift the hips up from there and begin to walk them forward until we get a stack. Now this is where our shoulders, our arms, and everything that we've learned prior to this, of course our hands aren't on the ground, is important. We want to press firmly into the arms, so it's actually like an activation like we're doing this. So a pressing action, we're still wrapping the triceps back just as we were before. We're still creating space between the shoulder blades until we get to the stack, in which we're going to elevate the shoulder blades like we did in our dolphin. And then we can walk the feet in, walk the feet in. We can bring one at a time up, heels back towards the glutes, and then lift the legs to the sky. What we're not going to do is kick up into a headstand ever. I see it, it's bad. You can create quick shock on your cervical spine and then down to the rest of your spine by doing a kick up in a headstand. Don't do it, it's not worth it. It's really not. People can get really hurt that way. So the idea is to build up the capability to get your feet off the ground without having to do a kick. Once we get into a forearm stand where our head is not touching the ground, it's totally okay to kick up. But when your head's on the ground, you don't want to load weight that quickly into your neck. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and come into our posture. Make sure nothing's in front of you just in case you roll. And you're also welcome to use the wall behind you if you feel that that's more comfortable for you. Highly encouraged. The wall was my best friend for a really long time, and still is as I work on my forearm and handstand practice. So arms come down, we'll grab those opposite upper arms. We'll keep the elbows right where they're at and then rotate the hands out. Palms together, you can take that clasp. I just encourage you not to thread the fingers together. We'll go ahead and lift the sit bones up just as if we're coming into that dolphin shape and place that thick bony part of the head into the mat. So we want to make sure that the edges of the head are actually touching the forearms, and then we'll walk the feet up until we start to feel the hips stack over top and press firmly through the forearms and kind of elevate the scapula. And then maybe both feet can come off the ground and you come into a little tuck. If the tuck comes, then you can start to extend the feet to the sky. Good. Good. And then make sure you're breathing too. Yay. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I have a neck injury.
Okay,
so.
gotcha. So probably not an awesome posture for you.
Yeah.
That's totally okay. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there's the wall.
Okay, yep, the wall's there to support you. Well, now you know, yeah, it's finding that balancing point. Good, continue to press into the forearms to keep the weight really light on the head. So you shouldn't feel like there's a lot of pressure on your head at all. once you get to that tuck shape,
Okay.
think about bringing your heels to your glutes and your knees out,
Okay.
and then extend up from there.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna help you out.
The wall is my friend.
It is. It's a great resource.
Yeah. It was like, definitely have a fear of like going forward.
Walk it forward, even more, hips over top of shoulders, good, good, good.
Great.
Yeah. Nice tuck. So bring the heels towards the glutes and knees out, just like that. Do you feel the balancing point there?
Woo, it's a hard
Okay,
balancing
and
point, but
yeah,
I feel
that's
the
fine,
difference,
yeah, and if, once you
Cause
can
I
get
gotta
to
like straighten myself before the legs go
yes,
up. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Okay, I gotcha.
okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Everybody else good with that one? Cool, okay. And like I said, doing a headstand is not like the end all be all to be